views and opinions of the bunker are that of those individuals taking part and by no means a reflection of the University Gallery, Gallery North, and sometimes the individuals themselves.
That was really
That was really good.
That was right, like exam invigilator.
Very calm.
You have
collected
1 hour to answer the question.
You may begin.
Yeah, we're the bunker. Howdy.
So I guess we'll do some introductions. I'm Olivia.
I'm Sophie.
I'm Charlie.
I'm Katie.
I'm Ed.
Ooh.
I'm with the bunker.
What are we chatting about today?
We are chatting about the purpose of making.
Which should be on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
To do this degree.
All the time.
Why do you
Never
make art?
ends. Okay, so I feel like we'll go around and say a little bit about what we feel about the subject. So I probably make art for enjoyment.
Enjoyment for what?
Straight in there with the questions.
What the hell are you talking about?
To be honest, I actually have no idea.
Okay.
Alright.
You enjoy making it, or like the product, like the end product?
Probably
or...
the process more for me. So whatever.
She's stealing
it
all
is.
my ideas, guys.
Yeah.
It's not the end, it's the journey.
It's the journey you go on.
I think it's quite weird because I kept on getting mixed up with the naming of this one because I was like, is that the process of making or the purpose of making?
Ooh.
So I was a little bit like, ooh.
Or are they the same?
Or are they the same?
thing?
Because
Maybe
I
we'll
wondered why
delve
we
into
didn't
that.
call it like the purpose of art rather than like the purpose of making.
Or maybe art.
Yeah.
Because it was,
The purpose of making art, though? Question mark?
yeah, but we didn't name it that though, did we? We just like,
Yeah, because I guess you could.
because is there a different,
There is a difference between the purpose of making art and the purpose of art.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just done exactly the same thing. So I've just messed up.
I'm just trying to find the comments.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so Olivia, I guess you're saying that's what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Charlie?
Oh. I don't know, but one thing I do know that every time I make work, I don't really know the purpose of why I make work, but every time I make work, I spend a lot more time writing about why I think I make work than actually making work,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or thinking about why I make work.
Yeah.
I like to make work because I like to pursue something that I don't understand, or maybe just go against things, whether it's right or wrong. I just like to be difficult.
Challenge.
You like
Yeah.
yeah.
Challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Do you think that enjoyment plays part in your purpose or not really? Did I just miss you? Did you just...
Did you just stop that?
Sorry, I just got a message that says I have to give a shout out to Brendan. Woo! Thanks for listening,
Oh, so
Brendan.
yeah, so we have got a comment section. So
If you want to
you are
join
listening,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
Comment your purpose of
Comment,
making art. If you've got one.
Is it Sophie? Have you got it up? So
I
Sophie,
can't work out how. I'm not going to lie to you.
right.
It should
I'm
just,
not sure if I'm the right
I'll have a look at comments.
Make sure you don't play out loud.
I can't find the comments bit, but anyway, you can comment us, you can go on our Instagram, you can leave us a comment on one of our pictures on our Instagram, DM us.
or if you're
Or
in the
or
gallery,
if
you can
you're
join in.
gallery,
If
Yeah.
you're in the gallery, you can come and ask us
come talk to us.
questions.
What's your purpose for making, guys?
Yeah.
What's your purpose for making art?
Welcome to the first years.
Welcome to the
Purpose of making, you say?
Yeah.
Purpose, yeah.
I like to tell stories. I want to tell a narrative.
Can we come close to the mic?
Yeah.
Join in.
I want to tell narratives. I want to like have symbolisms in my work. I want to have like personal experiences from it within it, and I want to have like tell other people's stories with it. It's kind of like, I guess, because I used to be an English student, so I kind of used to like write a lot, and I used to like write like narratives. I used to write like poems and stuff. And I think that's kind of continued into my artwork, where I kind of just have an idea and I'm like, I write it down first. I write down every single thing about it, and then I go do it. So
It sounds like you're quite clear on what your purpose is, whereas I feel like
I'm not.
you seem so much more definite
Yeah.
on your purposes. And we're all very vague
Yeah.
on this
I think
table.
so, like I will change like that. I can like if I'll have like one time where I'm like I know exactly what I'm doing, and then the next time I'll have a mind blank. I'll be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing anymore, and just have and then have a panic attack, and I'm like, wah.
Do you then get that moment where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know why I'm doing it, who am I,
Yes.
why am I doing this, what's the point, oh, it
Mhm.
means nothing, like,
I had that a lot in my foundation year, and I've
Yeah.
not had one this year yet, but I'm reckon it will come soon.
it's
It always happens.
You
on the
never
horizon,
plans out.
usually, couldn't it?
So do you write about your own narratives?
Yeah, I kind of if I have like a story or something I want to tell, I will write it down. Or if it's like something like a personal experience, I will like obviously just kind of keep it to myself and then kind of work on it like that. That's what I'm doing with like my most latest stuff.
Yeah.
But even with my work, like last year when I was like not last year, like last semester when I was doing it, like part of my work was a narrative which I read, and it was like the first 2 chapters of the story I wanted to tell.
That's cool.
I really like
Interesting.
that. That's
No.
really. Do you want
So-
to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hello everyone, I'm Mark. I'm a first year student.
Represent Mark.
You just had how is bunker pronounced?
Is that what someone just commented?
Ria Martin. Shout out.
Shout out Ria Martin. The bunker
Oh,
Ria
hello.
Martin is pronounced the bunker. That was deep and meta.
Well,
Actually,
Jade, have you got any? What about you? Why do you kind of make? What drives you to make art, or does anything drive you to make art?
That's why I'm crap at everything else.
That is a good enough
Sorry,
reason,
yeah,
you're not
exactly
the
what
first
I
person to
think
say
of.
that.
Last English joke happened. Yeah, I don't know. I guess when I was little, I used to spend a long time in the car going from Leeds to home, which is like 2 hours away. I used to have to do that like 3 times every weekend
Oh right, yeah,
for my brother and stuff. So like,
yeah.
all I used to do was draw in the car, like
Okay.
anything at all, and like same. Like my parents weren't very rich, so they'd give me a pencil and paper, and I'd be fine. So it was more of when I was younger, I used to draw a lot, and then when I got into school, I found out that I was kind of a lot better than everybody else's drawing kind of thing. So then I was encouraged even more by my peers and by my teachers and by my mum. So yeah, it's just kind of gone on from there.
so,
Snowball.
so it's
So
a
as-
time. It's about like kind of spending
Nurturing.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's that
right.
between the car journey. It's about just sort of using your time to create.
Yeah.
Is that your purpose? Is that the
Yeah.
purpose that you said is the core of where you've come from? But now you're like,
Yeah, no, I just enjoy doing it a lot.
what journey are you on now?
Ed Lawrence again.
Oh.
Philosophical.
Deep thoughts.
I'm not really sure, just like I'm quite tranquil, I'm quite in a calm place at the moment. I
Yeah.
quite like
You're not
So-
travelling, you're just drifting.
yes, floating.
Riding
so,
the wave.
Quite a lot of my work now is about meditation and yoga and
That's
plants and
interesting.
stuff like that because I just feel at one with
So it's
everything.
meditative
Yeah.
art.
So
That
do
is
you-
what- yes, sorry.
For you, then, is the purpose in a way? Is it calming? Is it something that's important for your state of mind?
Yeah, yeah. I was bullied a lot as well, so that probably helps as well because
So it's
I'd
an
rather
out-
lock
an
myself in
outlet?
and draw than like
Mm.
actually. I don't have many friends, so it's
Mm.
more.
So from what
Syncretism.
you're saying, it really sounds like for you, like your making started with your early experiences, but do you think are those still what drive you to make now, or do you think that
You like kind
there are
of-
other factors as well
No,
now?
I think
or
there's other factors now.
Yeah.
I just enjoy it.
just
Definitely a
enjoyment?
Yeah, I was going to say it's definitely a personal thing for you, but I think it's just a personal
Is
thing.
it
for
is it
everyone,
more
isn't
to
it?
do with like other people now? Because we were having this conversation earlier about how when we were younger we made work just for ourselves, but then you come to uni and it's more about how your work is received and things by other
Yeah.
people. Where you don't have that
Especially
pressure when you're
uni.
younger. Yeah.
When they have a box that you kind of have to fill that criteria just to get a good grade. So like,
Yeah.
it's less about what you want to make now, and it's kind of more, just do that, explain it, and you're fine.
But it's
Yeah.
packaged in a way that you should be able to explore your own.
Does anyone else feel the thing as well? Like you've got to try and like show everyone that you can do it. Because I've got a couple of friends who are studying as well, and but they're on like engineering courses. They're all doing, as they call it, say to me, or as they say to me, proper degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone doesn't think that art's an actual degree, but so I feel as though I've got to kind of push forward even more to
Yeah.
say this is an actual degree. I do it's just as much work as you, if not more,
Yeah.
and kind of prove a point. Does anyone else feel like that?
But that shows,
Yeah.
that shows like you're really engaged in art that you really want to express to everyone else. So it's like that kind of drive is something that it's the passionate, it's the, we're
Yeah.
saying a lot of P words here now.
Ooh.
I'm writing that
Love a
down.
good P word.
I love this P word.
Probably passionate people.
Because it is, it's like, yeah, you have to not,
You have to fight your corner a little bit,
yeah.
Yeah.
which is kind of healthy in a way.
It can be a downfall though.
Yeah.
As I've spent a lot of time thinking about because it just relates to the academic rationale that people try and push without. It's like you can't, like the two can be. It's like when you spend, or what texts are you reading, or like, and this as if that can like feed into your work when
Yeah.
in reality they are separate and they exist separate. And it's a good thing to try and justify it to other people.
Yeah. It's like when you said, Sophie, remember when you were like, oh, like if I go to a gallery with my friends, they'll say to me, so what is it all about? And you're
Yeah,
expected to
as
have
if
this
you have
insider
this
knowledge,
kind of-
and you're like, well, I have no
I
idea.
don't-
You know as
I'm
much as
not
you.
an authority on this. I just do an art degree that
Yeah.
doesn't, it doesn't really change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so my boyfriend to Baltic a couple of months ago,
Mhm.
and he walked in, he was like, I don't understand. I was like, yes.
It's sad. I find it sad really because it's like in a certain way when you have to feel like you justify it, you can't just enjoy it. You can't just pursue like a degree or pursue a topic because you enjoy. Especially like people enjoy, say for example, doing engineering as a degree, and that has like its own merit. So like creativity and art itself is the idea that you don't have to be factual. You can be whatever you want, but that is almost washed away because you have to try and prove that it is academic. You can't be, and you can't enjoy just the creative process without constantly feeling like you've got to understand something that's not there.
Like I've said this a million times before, like in like first year, like with Chris and all this, but I always found that when I was back in high school, the art was always like put on a backbone. Like even like just the art department, we were in the bottom corner of this kind of massive building, and no one ever really came down there unless they needed a display or something creative. And other than that, we were just left to our own devices. Whereas the English department, the music department, everything else like that kind of thing was pushed to the front. They're like, oh, look at our science labs, look at our English classroom, look at our high-tech computers, and you're just kind of
And
like,
we're the festering art school.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something we've got a discussion on tomorrow. So we're talking about pedagogies tomorrow.
Pedagogies.
So like ways of teaching, and I think this is definitely something we're going to explore in more detail tomorrow, like the problems that it can present that the art school is located within a university and is a degree, and the fact that means you have to. Like it has to be a certain way to be a degree, but like, does it need to be a degree? I don't know. But you guys, we're having a big discussion on that
You
tomorrow.
should
So if you've got
definitely
things to
come
say,
tomorrow.
come down tomorrow as well.
Does it need to be a degree? That is my main burning question.
Burn, baby,
burn,
burn.
baby.
Can I
I
just
feel
hold up
like
a piece
if
of
you
paper?
went was a degree,
No.
because then
The one in front of you
now
there.
every subject.
You should
Like
check
if ours was
that.
different, it'd be like, oh, it'd probably be lower.
Yeah, that's
Whereas if we're on the same level as like English, maths, engineering, then it kind of makes us kind of more important on the same line as them. Whereas if we weren't hold a degree, it'd be like the difference between an apprenticeship and a job or like a BTEC and an A level kind of thing.
So what-
I don't think the same.
So what does your boyfriend, do you know you went around the Baltic with your boyfriend?
Yeah.
What does he think your reasoning to make art is? Like if that's, like, what does he think? Because obviously he said, can we leave?
Well, he loves art. He loves taking photographs. He does paint himself, but he doesn't get the contemporary side of it. He doesn't, which to be fair, I didn't before I came to uni. So it's more the fact that of what the painting was rather than it was the fact that it was splashes on a canvas rather than a portrait of somebody that was really realistic.
Because I mean, like the histories of public art are the fact that a lot of sculptures and stuff was very commemorative, and so it was the monuments, monolithic kind of
And
things
memorials.
in memorials, and then it kind of like in the 60s it shifted to that kind of change of governments putting money into it. So that's like a shift that happened then. I can't remember where I was going with it, to say
I don't
that
know where you were going
that
with
it's
it.
like
I'm waiting to find out.
so like
My purposes.
so yeah, the purposes of actually making art has changed from being commemorative as a taking a
As in making
portrait.
public art?
Yeah. Or no,
Or
not
just
in general.
Oh,
So
you mean
it's
like, okay, yeah.
So painting pictures, like what's the purpose to paint a picture of someone?
Yeah.
Like, so your boyfriend was saying that he likes, or it's not just a splash on paint on the canvas. It says, where is the context? What is it that it's of?
Does purpose come through context? I guess that's a question. Is that how we find meaning in what we do? Do we use the world around us? Because that's definitely like what you're saying, like as well. Obviously, like yeah, it was to paint so that you knew what someone looked like. But obviously, we have photographs, and
Yeah.
we have had for I don't know what, nearly 200 years.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think it's that
Yeah.
question of why don't we name this topic the purpose of art? Because art throughout the history has changed completely.
Like, surely the meaning's like more about the making.
Yeah.
Because
Now,
yeah.
Well, now, yeah,
Because we have like performance art and like experiential art that
Yeah.
like there is no material outcome to it.
Do you,
no
ever-
object.
No object.
do you
Yeah.
ever think people are making art because they're trying to find out what art is? Because they don't, no
Yeah.
one knows. And it's like this, I was just getting back to that point where it's like making it be a degree so everyone's on the same level. Maybe the whole point for me in my head, art is the fact that you should embrace the fact it's not like everything else. The fact it's like challenges things and does things that are completely unexplainable, and you can just go in there and just enjoy it. Like,
But people will always want to put you in a label.
yeah,
So that's why it's so hard. And also, like, there's that argument that, like, what do we get at the end of it? Sometimes
just-
people do want degrees, people want to get jobs, people,
yeah.
do need
Yeah, I think
to
another
live.
thing that is-
If that's the case, then you might be in the wrong
Mm.
pursuit. Maybe, well, you can. This, I think there's a few ways.
If you want to make money, don't do
Yeah.
this.
No, I mean, like, use the art society as like a means of making the art, not the art society, the art world as a means of making money by like finding ways to like get artistic things to happen and like facilitating things and being active in that and curating spaces and stuff, and that can be a way of making money. But as an artist, like, I know people want to make money as being an artist, but like, it's, I don't know, I find it difficult because
Yeah.
it's one of them things for me that it's like, if you're in there to make money
But
out of
that's-
art, like,
But that can change.
But that's part of
making.
the making, I think.
Mm.
Like
But it
the
depends.
organising of events and curating things.
yeah.
That's what you're doing. You could make things for different reasons. You could make things for your own contemporary art practice, but you could also make things that are commercial because you need to eat and you
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
pay rent. So you can have. I don't think that you can have one sole purpose that applies to everything you do. For example, like this, what's the purpose of what we're doing now? Well, it's definitely to explore some topics that we really wanted to, we're really interested in.
Or want to do together.
Yeah,
And not on our
but
own.
it's also, the purpose of it is also that it's an event, and the purpose of it is part of an exhibition that's been curated, like, with lots of different contributions in it, and it's an exhibition that wants to explore topics that Gail's PhD research is in.
Yeah.
And so, and then, like, if you make a proposal or a submission for something, that changes its purpose, because
Yeah.
if you're wanting to get that funding, or you want to win a competition, you do change what you're doing to fit a brief. So I think your purpose is always shifting, and it's not static, whatever.
It's evolving.
It's
Yeah.
evolving. I
It's
love that
interesting.
word.
'Cause I've just had a seminar about artist statement, and it's whether or not you do it visually, whether or not you write it in a way that is creative, or you write it in a way that is not pandering to whoever you're applying to. So it's like the purpose you make, you kind of have to shift it. I know there's one student that applied for something and they had to like reword it and bring in these other contexts that maybe they weren't even thinking about. So that's about compromise. So, but it's not about they weren't making the work for that, but it's that kind of integrity that you may lose by writing it differently or bringing in other aspects that you don't really
It's
technically.
Yeah.
it's hard to retain total autonomy over your work, I guess, in that way, because the context that you either situate it in or it becomes situated in, change like its purpose as well. And your purpose that you kind of, oh bye, thank you very much for the,
See you later, guys.
we're very appreciative to the first years for their contributions, and we would
I was
like
going to
to
ask, where can I get one of those t-shirts? Because I really want one.
oh, we're going to hopefully sell,
Yeah,
we'll
we're
make
working
some
on
and
it.
sell them.
Yeah.
Okay. I will definitely be on
See you
that.
all later.
See you later, guys.
What was you saying?
Um,
Oh, brain. Brain.
Why don't
The
we,
purpose changes
Junior
on.
brain.
Yeah.
Bunker
should we
brain.
do a little segment where we introduce some things that are happening locally?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Cool.
if you can't remember what you were saying.
If you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
what you were
Yeah.
saying.
Well,
While you
we'll give
think.
you the local art news, and I'm
I
going
just
to think.
say one thing. Shout out to Mia Scott Johnson has just give a comment. She's asked, because she knows that, like, she's my girlfriend. She said that she knows that me and her have she knows that both of us have stopped. But does anyone make work outside of university? Because she thinks
That is a good
she
question.
thinks that university has made us stop doing things in our own time.
That's really interesting, and I know some people on our course, because I don't really, but I know, again, back to that commercial thing, people on our course who
Do different art.
Yeah.
will
Different.
like do things for themselves, but also do things outside for commissions that they get paid for.
But do you not think that this
Is
is
outside.
outside? I think this is
Yeah.
If it wasn't for
outside.
the university,
That's
it
true.
wouldn't have happened.
I don't.
Well,
I see.
in a way, but
But I also
In a
think there's
very
always
loose-
there's always
in a
been
it
very
wasn't really the
something.
university. It was kind of Kate's introduction.
Yeah.
And I guess Kate is.
Part of the
Would it-
university, but we are like people that are interested in the same things as us are part of the university usually, or we meet through the university.
Yeah.
Like you know, Dom does a lot of like
Commission-based work.
commission-based work. We know him through uni. And
Whenever I've thought about the university and like the course and how it's like kind of structured, and obviously we'll go into that later, but it's tomorrow. And then, but I always say that it's very much that we're people, and we just like hiring a studio. Like we have the best studios that I can kind of like think of
Yeah.
through my friends at different universities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I see that as it's my studio. This is my practice. I'm an artist from
Yeah.
2015 to 2018. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like this has been
I
a
would.
progression. So I'd say this is more outside than in as well.
I definitely like to think of the university as being that facilitator for me to just make work. But unfortunately, that is stripped away for me when I'm forced to have a submission at the end of the year and like put it into perspective for other people to market for me. Like I would like it. I come in my head originally. I came to university not to try and like spend ages researching stuff, but I was willing to pay this amount of money for facilities and the ability to work with people that are like-minded and like visual or whatever, like creative things. So like that's kind of what you're using, hiring out the studio, spending £9 a year like to have a space, and that's kind of like how I naively expected it to be. But you get like art history rammed down your throat, like. Huh? The what?
Try not to
Trying to shake the table.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just
Our
because
listeners
I'm thinking
will
that
be
will
deafened.
that will deafen everyone. Carry on,
I
Charlie.
suppose a question that I could ask as well is that what would be the purpose to make art outside
Mhm.
of? I suppose it's a kind of loaded question because that's what we're asking,
Yeah.
like as a whole, but specifically outside the university in comparison to inside the university, what would be the purpose?
Do you not
the
think it
purpose
has-
inside is to get the grade at the end.
So then it
To
has
some
more
extent.
meaning outside of the uni.
Is it more
Well, no,
genuine,
this is
or-
where because
Yeah.
I've just said that I generally feel like I'm an artist inside and out, and it's kind of like thing,
Yeah.
and I don't really
Is it-
focus too much on the end and on the
Yeah.
grade.
Yeah.
Because obviously when you go outside to, say, you get your own studio at Newbridge or somewhere else, then they'll have these informal crits, or you'll have these deadlines of, I've got an exhibition coming up, and then it will be reviewed.
Yeah.
So then you're still getting this criticality back at you.
But
So
you
I
get
feel like
in other jobs you'd get that as well.
Yeah.
There's always going to
review.
be there's always going to be
Yeah.
a review, a deadline, just anything of that context.
Yeah.
So
there can be deadlines, or like you've got deadlines to meet to be able to put work in a certain place, or someone's expecting something done by a certain time. But just to, like they're putting the value on it for me.
As in like
Yeah.
marking
It's the issue,
criteria.
Yeah.
It's the issue. It's like, why not use, like, why I don't understand why universities can't have the idea of a degree, an art degree, as being literally like we hire we have the
Yeah,
facilities, they
yeah.
facilitate people making work,
Yeah.
and that's what, and naively I've come to the university
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, I understand. Because like so many people always, like whenever I say, whenever you get talking to someone long enough that doesn't do art or like doesn't, you know, isn't on this course, and they say like, you know, it's I can't wrap my head around the fact that like how would you mark art? How would you actually mark it? Like Nick says it all the time.
Yeah. I don't know, Granddad give me it all the time.
Yeah, and I'm just like, sometimes I really try to answer that question because I'm like, well, like, you know, I've got you know, an assessment, I've got criteria, but then I'm just like, oh my gosh,
But like, actually, we don't know either.
yeah, I was like, I actually have no idea. Like,
Yeah. Okay.
okay,
Let's
yeah,
not
so
get
let's-
too much into pedagogy.
Yeah, we're gonna do that
Let's try and-
tomorrow.
Yeah, because otherwise we'll use all of our material.
But yeah, we'll talk through
We'll
the
talk more about that.
local events that are coming up this week.
Yes,
Well, the
hit it
next
up.
couple of weeks. And so hand over to Katie.
Oh.
Oh, Charlie.
Wow, Katie.
And Charlie.
Well, I've got one. We got sent out by Kate. There's a solo exhibition by Anna Barham tonight. Yep, tonight at 6 till 8 at the Ex Libris Gallery in Newcastle Uni.
Okay,
I
cool.
think that's it. Do we need any more?
We've got loads more.
Gold Tapped Gallery's opening tonight. I think it's tonight. Also, there's this thing going on at Tyneside Cinema from 5:30 till 7:30.
Mm.
We'll be definitely go have a look because they always do great things.
Yeah.
Is it the Sublime Slime?
Sublime Slime.
Is that
Gold,
Gold
that's
Tapped?
Gold
Yeah.
Tapped, and then you've got Tyneside Cinema.
Nice.
Got Susie Green
yeah.
also, which is at Workplace Gallery.
Oh,
There's-
yeah.
I've also got one, I Look Better Online. It's an exhibition and zine launch at Systems Gallery or System Gallery this Saturday.
Oh, I might have to
Sounds
have a
good.
go.
6
What
p.m.
That sounds good.
6 p.m. Oh, fucking work.
6 p.m. till
What's the
9.
one we just got sent as well?
And Adam Phillips has got
Yeah.
a book launch. Have we already said that?
No, that's at 36 Lime Street. Is that the
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
Yeah, and the book's called The Eclipse. Is that 6 tomorrow or tonight? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
Tomorrow.
Expect.
There's a lot of exciting
Also-
There's a
stuff
lot,
happening.
there's a lot going on.
It's Virginia Woolf's birthday today.
Party.
Happy birthday.
She is a writer. Was a writer.
Yeah.
She has.
Definitely was.
Yeah, she passed away in 1941.
Yep.
So it's
So-
a celebration of Virginia Woolf today because she had a lot of influence in inspiring a lot of people.
Yeah.
But start your own event as well.
Yeah.
Get out there, man. Make some
Yeah,
things
come
happen.
on.
We need more
Oh,
We'll
things.
definitely support you and give you, you know,
What we're talking about.
Come.
People doing things.
just anyone.
do
Give you a
things.
We'll
And
give you a
if you're running an event or you have an exhibition opening or a pop-up or,
Message us.
or anything, send us a message. We really want to support like people who are doing creative things locally, and we'll shout you out.
Especially students.
Yes.
Especially students.
But
Yes.
also people who
Also
aren't
anyone.
students.
Yeah.
But people like early career, you know, you need hand. But while we're on the topic, I want to give a shout out to Sophie Asco because I'm looking at your zine right now and it's really cool. I love it. If you're around Northumbria Uni, try and pick one of these up. It's called When I Was Sad in 2014, Weird Drawings from My Journal. And it's really cute.
Let's have a look. Because I love the little zine, like.
Yeah, this girl makes amazing zines.
Yeah.
So shout out.
Very punk
And if
rock,
anyone
man.
has any other
Yeah, if
things,
you
any
message us
work
during this with
they wanna
any
bring in?
requests for shout outs, we'll do it. But-
All and the purpose of making.
yeah, or
Questions.
questions about the purpose of making, or comments, or what your purpose is for making.
Well,
we
we've
want
got-
to hear from
We've got a
you.
few.
You sound
if
like
they're-
some kind of what is
Smooth
Yeah, smooth
radio
radio.
DJ.
We've
we
got-
want to hear.
now.
Yeah, we've got a few of some people's purposes, haven't we?
Okay, so in
Alright.
Kaggle yesterday we got people to answer some questions. So let's delve in.
I'll pop a one out.
So the
Pick a card and a card.
question we asked people was, why do you
I
make
don't know
art?
why I'm closing my eyes. Pick a card and a
I've
card.
got one. Want me to read it?
Yeah.
So we asked people, why do you make art? And this person answered, to gain and give free knowledge. And they
To
put
gain free knowledge.
to gain and give free knowledge, but they've put free in quotation marks. So I guess they're kind of, are they questioning whether you can have free knowledge, maybe? Which is, who was I talking about this with you, Olivia, yesterday?
Free knowledge.
Were we talking about how nothing can be autonomous?
Maybe. Was that
Were
me?
we drunk?
Most
We were definitely drunk.
Wait, speak more.
So,
I probably
so
got
they're
on
kind
the
of.
nose.
I can't remember. I
Speak
just
more about this.
remembered that, like, I actually have no idea, but that word just kind of gave me a little flashback, and I can
Don't
now
do
taste
that.
the.
Don't do
Oh
that.
no.
It's like it's coming back up your throat.
Yeah, so they said to gain and give free knowledge, which I think is quite interesting because they're kind of talking about an exchange, aren't they? And I know for myself, I definitely think, for me, making is about exchange. I couldn't really make things in isolation. I very much need to either be directly working with other people, or even if I'm not necessarily collaborating, I need those conversations and I need that energy from other people. So I gain a lot from other people. I don't know if I give anyone anything though. I don't know.
Well,
I'd
ask
like
Katie.
to.
Ask
I think
Katie.
it's impossible.
Oh yeah, Ratto. Katie. That's
Katie.
great, Katie. Sorry, me and Katie collaborate under Betty and the Rat. So, do you feel that you gain? Oh no, yeah. Do I give and do you gain? Because you definitely give and I gain from you.
Yeah, I get, yeah.
I gain a lot from you.
Yeah, I gain a lot from.
Yeah,
I think you just gain a lot in general from working with different people.
yeah.
I definitely wouldn't make the same kind of work if we weren't.
And even when you're not working with people, just I love going and seeing people's work, and I think I gain from the experience of seeing what other people are doing. Even if it's someone's show and you don't know them, and you just go for like half an hour, you gain from that experience.
What is it that we
And that's
gain?
Do any
What
of
is
us
it?
make
What is it
work
that
that we
we-
never
Yeah.
show
What
anyone?
do we gain?
Yeah,
What do you
people keep
think we
saying,
gain?
we gain things. Sorry, Kate.
Oh, that was a good question.
Because I was thinking about how the purpose is when the girl was talking before about being in the car and drawing,
Yeah.
Mm.
and Jade, yeah, and how when you're younger you just do it because you enjoy it, and then the purpose changes when you come to uni. Would we ever just make anything just for ourselves? Like, we say it's for ourselves because we enjoy doing it, but we actually, like, would any of us like draw something and then never show anyone, but we enjoy doing it? I feel like you lose that as you get older.
I know I definitely write poetry that I don't show anyone, or maybe only show one person.
Me.
We touched upon like social media like the end of last week, but Instagram has got this now form of generosity that you kind of go Throwback Thursday, this is my art that I made, or the fact that you can doodle. We ask people to doodle on the backs of these
I'm
sheets.
excited about this.
And it's the fact that you make it and you're going to give it away, but then they take a picture of it and it's on Instagram
Yeah.
before the end of the day. And it's that kind of, I'm making this, but it's just for me, I'm just doodling.
Yeah.
But then it does go on in Instagram, and there is this kind of shift of making something for yourself, but then offering it up to the internet.
So
Yeah.
And so you don't really anymore.
Do you think that by sharing that changes the purpose? That it can't, if you share something, do you think it can't just be for yourself?
Well, I think like the act of doodling
Yeah.
is it's a big topic to talk about, but doodling is something that you do to either
doodle.
you doodle. Or it's something that you kind of do to help you listen. I know there's like some kind of theory that it helps you understand things a little bit better. But then it can to then use it as an art work piece. It kind of changes it, frames it differently.
So your purpose when you made it was just to chill and doodle, but then you framed it. So that's what we were saying earlier about how purpose can evolve over time. Like you just intended it just to be like, something you did while you were listening, but the realised purpose has become representation of my inner thoughts.
I always,
I don't know.
yeah, I always think like that's quite clear when you go to a lot of galleries now. Like especially for me, I find it really interesting when artists include their sketchbooks in exhibitions, and it's that kind of idea that this is like my process. This is the working towards the video or the sculpture or the poem that you see. But the idea that was possibly that's for that specific artist at that moment, but then showing that to you in a different way.
One of the courses, design students, they get told to sketch books. They don't get marks just for the one, and it's completely different.
So they don't.
Well, I can leave them the one. But it's just about especially design. It's all about the end product and the professional sketching and things. But the actual thoughts and ideas behind it are like not everyone.
That's really interesting.
Kind of a retrospective role that your art makes that you don't keep things for yourself.
I feel like that's what we do, because I feel like art is so much more about process than outcome.
Yeah. And we're encouraged a lot as well for our submissions and things to not just create a final piece, because that's just not really what it is.
Yeah, it's a lot of people ask me, like, do you buy the piece, man?
Just on a journey.
What I bought last year, I'm just going to show that.
Final piece
It's really important.
And because you don't necessarily have to like then that's not the end of that.
No,
you
yeah.
know, people exhibit the same works more than once, and the context that you exhibit them in can change them. You don't have to.
But I mean, just look at Olivia Turner's piece that we've got sat next to us right now. That was for all like I saw it first upright, and the fact that she then came into this exhibition, and Gail's kind of ethos was to have everything displayed horizontally, so it changes its purpose. And Olivia had this conversation about the ends of them now looking like gloves instead of hands binoculars. They're now gloves, and it's more of a so
That's
Just
really
looks like
interesting.
purpose.
the purpose. If you then changed it and turned it into a purpose, and it would just change that different history.
And that's really exciting.
Yeah, is it?
I think that's really exciting because I didn't know that, but then you think of it in a different way.
Apparently we've got some sounds
Oh,
going
no.
funny. We'll,
Sound interference. Sorry, guys. Hopefully, it's not too bad. What are you doing?
Yeah. This is the thing that have we still got sound?
no,
Yeah.
carry on, yeah.
It's like if it's just about the process, like with the sketchbook thing, may as well just show people our notes and sketches. Like if that's what's more interesting, then
Yeah.
it seems you have to.
So, for you, do you have, I guess, because the purpose of baking comes into like the purpose of your notebook, what is, because I don't know, I think, I know most of us here, we all keep notebooks and like maybe have some rogue drawings in them, but I don't really keep a sketchbook, I keep notebooks with diagrams and stuff in them of what I want to do. What's the purpose of your notebook?
I don't know, I just like, because I feel like I've got such a fast-paced brain that and when I'm thinking about it, I just
Can confirm Charlie's brain goes too fast.
I just need to write everything down, and like a lot of the books I've got them all in front of me now. A lot of them they're not even finished. They're like 10 pages in.
I would say that the notebooks are like for yourself, and then whatever your kind of end product or whatever your show is for the other people. So I'm talking about the purpose, and people were saying I only do it for myself, but actually you only do like everything else for yourself. But as soon as you make like a final outcome, like then you've done it for other people, and you've like, because then if people didn't like it, does that affect how you feel about your work?
I think the logical question for me with when it's like, what is the purpose of making art? It's like, what is it? The purpose of what is it to be an artist?
Yeah, I think maybe that's something we can like hone in on a bit now, because I guess like
Charlie, artists can be.
Artists can
That's
be.
This
kind
was some of my research.
that's something that I think we can all get like really caught up on and can really affect you. I know like most people, you struggle with that anxiety about making art. Like, why are you doing it? What's the point in doing it? And I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but I do think it's such a massive thing. Because you kind of have to also just like not think about it too much to not just be like stuck.
Not be like me and not make any work because I'm so stressed out about it all the time.
The thought of making it is
Yeah.
just too stressful.
I've seen like I write down loads of ideas. Oh, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, and then I actually come into it and I spend that long like working it, and I'm just like,
Don't know where to
Yeah.
go.
I don't know
now.
why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And you've exhausted every possible failure.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you even get to the point where you question. Last night I was walking home from when we were at Nancy Bordello's, and I was like, am I even an artist? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm like. Am I just like, because I read something which really poisoned my brain for about half a day that day, and it was like, I don't know where it is.
Do you want to try and find it?
I've got it printed up in my studio. It was something like, people who use the idea that there is no purpose to art mean that there's no purpose to art means that there's no failure. You can never fail. And this person said if there's no failure, it means then that's just like a lazy artist. Where a person who's not really an artist has this idea, so they can never escape failure. And I was like, I have that idea, but that really personally affected me because I was like, does that like people having that's such a strong view, and it's like, does that genuinely mean I'm not making work that's really like, and I just live in this because all I want to do is make work, but then it's like locked in. It's like all I want to do is make it, but then I get stressed out about everything else that comes with it, and there's so many different layers to it that all I can do is make nonsense. Like all I can fathom to do is make work that has nothing behind it.
Yeah, it's so hard to, because partly it's so easy to say, oh, I'm just going to make work because I want to, but you have a responsibility, possibly.
Well, I guess that depends on what you think, like, what it is.
What
to
you're
be an
making it for,
artist.
yeah.
Me and
Yeah.
Katie were talking earlier about, like, is there value in making art, and is there value in being an artist, and does that depend on whether you're...
But also depends
Yeah.
what your art is about. You kind of you're responsible for, or that you're kind of expected to know a lot.
You
of
kind of
academic
create
stuff
your own
about
meaning
that
through-
subject,
Yeah.
which then brings with it a lot of problems.
There's a lot of stress and a lot of paradoxes that means that like there's not one answer to it. And it's hard naively. For me, I assume that art doesn't necessarily have to have a meaning because it's always meant to be kind of anarchic. It's always meant to push what is people accept, and like even if it is controversial, like everything we hear about in art history or we have in Cagney lectures, all this artists from like 20, 30 years ago, they were always doing stuff that people were like, oh my god, like outraged, or doing something that's like nothing we've seen before. It might not make any sense, but it's pretty cool. Like when like I know it's like a bit of a thingy topic. It's like everyone bashes it, but abstract expressionism, everyone bashes it in the art world anyway. But abstract expressionism, when it first came, obviously like there was this thing that Alan was telling about, the CIA endorsed it and stuff. But aside from that, when it first came out, people were blown away. They were like, whoa, like these massive paintings, and like they were just like, this is like incredible. I don't know why I understand it, but it's like, but I do. It's like, I don't know, for example, music. If we say we have a track that we listen to, we maybe take the words out because they can add meaning where, and that facilitates a different conversation. But say you listen to classical music, you don't necessarily know why you like it, but you listen to it all of the time, and you love the way it sounds, and you don't have an explanation for it, it just emotionally captivates you. Like for me, that's what I've thought of being art is, and the fact it captivates me is the fact that it is anarchic, and this has this weirdness about it that you can just like a collage, for example. A collage makes no sense because it's literally just a compartment of loads of different things on top of each other, which have loads of different, and people find meaning from it. But it's like the aesthetic, it's like, wow, that looks really nice. Like it's really pleasing. It gives you like a shiver over your body. It's like when you listen to a song you love, and you go, whoa, has that feeling. But then like this academic rationale that people attach to it, for me personally, it can really deteriorate that for me. It makes it stressful to the point where I feel myself starting to cry.
Yeah. It's emotional. It's emotional. So it sounds like for you, Charlie, like the purpose of making work is definitely to like challenge things, to challenge what people see as art and unart, and you know, to be new.
Yeah. Not even necessarily just yet, probably
just
new.
To give, just
Yeah.
for someone else to get something from it.
Yeah, like, but this idea is it was a really postmodernist idea, but it gets bashed, like this idea that like it can be just like this kind of, it's like, oh, there's more to it than this. Like, I don't understand why everyone forces it. Like, it really, yeah, I'm gonna have to. It's like, sounds like I'm moaning. Shift off.
It's okay.
This week, I've just found like, oh, if you wanna.
No, you go.
I can read this whilst we're doing the other things, and we can like, I can articulate it a little bit better. But it's like the purpose is the very trusty Wikipedia page
Oh, wait.
Well renowned.
of art. This is Dictionary Corner right
Dun,
now.
dun, dun, Dictionary Corner.
And it's like, it kind of puts it in like the different purposes being in a kind of non-motivated and those that are motivated. So like these non-motivated ones are the to fulfill a specific external purpose, in the sense art as creativity is something humans must do by their very nature. But then it says that no other species creates art, which is, I think, a little bit like...
How would we know?
Because there are fish that make the pool.
The patterns
the
and
patterns
swim
in
together.
and then essentially that's
birds.
making something that is visually...
Yeah, but like, do they do it for that purpose?
Oh, it's to mate, I think.
Yeah, so they're not making it to make
But
art.
So is
we
that,
don't
is
know
that,
do we?
do we make art to mate?
Well,
I'm back onto the sexual friends thing again.
It's like
who's ever used being an artist to pull? Definitely Ed.
that thing that comes to this idea of relativity, isn't it really? And like the whole idea of life is based around relativity. Time is relative to people because of things I can.
Georgia has just messaged me about the blue fish on Blue Planet that creates art.
Okay.
So,
Can you give us more about the fish?
Georgia, please tell us more.
and a smiley face. So,
What,
sorry,
what's she
sorry,
saying about the
Charlie.
fish?
This idea
She's-
of relativity,
I
that everything is
assumed she was
different
gonna
for
say something.
every mammal species, anything on the planet, everything is completely different. Their perception of the world is different.
Yeah.
And humans, I think, have this maybe a bit of a flaw of assuming
Vegan.
humans maybe have a bit of a flaw in assuming that the way the world's perceived is the way that we perceive it, and that's the correct way.
Yeah.
And then there's this idea which also gets bashed in art, relativity within art, which gets bashed as being that everyone's work is subjective to the person viewing it or the person making it, and that gets thingy because then it has the idea that there is no good and bad and whatever, which is like crazy to think, but it just seems like the most obvious thing, like, because an ant is going to have a different perception of the world, even if it is just the fact that everything is massive compared to how we view the world.
Yeah.
Like, as daft as that sounds, comparing that with that.
But it wouldn't be massive to them. It would just be normal.
Ooh.
Dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun.
that's true.
Because
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how
How
it's
they-
always been
how
for,
they-
for the
I
ant.
was trying to articulate it in a sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
no,
how
I
you
get
would
you.
think about it.
I think that's, you could say that from like person to person, because I suppose we're all guilty of at times assuming that other people are going to see the world in the way that we see it,
Yeah.
and that's just not true. Like you saying, can art be good or bad? Well, not objectively, like as a definite truth, because that literally depends on who you're asking.
Yeah.
And even if we all agree that it can be good or bad, we can't necessarily agree on what is good or bad, like which ones are, and does it even matter if they are? Like, who knows?
Yeah. See, like, everyone has these conversations and the debates about, like, these theories in art and stuff that are quite, that we get told to, like, look at. We have seminars around it and stuff. But ultimately, like, what purpose does these serve other than the art, like, the world that is art? Like, I don't understand what the conversations we have. It's like, oh, what is art? Like, it only serves the purpose of, like, talking about art, like,
With it,
but then we're pulling sociological topics into it, and it's like it really confuses me, because I just see, like, wow, art's like, it's something that, like, you just go, whoa, that's cool as, man, like, or like, if I don't know, you're walking down the street and something catches your eye, and it's just maybe just like a tree blowing against a wall, but you're like, the composition of that's great. You could see a photograph,
But
and I want to capture that and show
yeah.
someone.
But is it like people trying to justify themselves within like
Yeah.
other subjects?
Well, like it doesn't. I think, you know,
But also, what if someone really, really loves the subject, wants to know
Yeah.
everything about it, really wants to delve into it, all the academic texts about it?
Yeah.
You know, that's
They're totally entitled
Go
to do
ahead.
it. I'm not bashing
Well,
people
yeah.
for like.
No, I'm just playing devil's
also,
advocate.
like, I guess in a way, like art does not exist in a vacuum, so you need to kind of not need to, but it can change the way that you understand it and the purpose that it serves, depending on like what other things you're interested in, you understand, or you know, like it does exist in connection with sociology, it does exist in connection with politics, with philosophy, with psychology.
Art
exists-
isn't its own thing. It's just
Yeah.
it's about
It's about-
like everything
it's
else
a
in
mishmash.
life.
I suppose it's like if we're taking what we do, it's like a visual exploration of things.
Yeah.
Just things in life.
Yeah.
But I say visual, but then sound work isn't visual, so
Katie?
I don't know. I don't even know how you'd go about defining that, but I think
But if Charlie
Yeah.
talks about just enjoying the way something looks, he can still
Yeah.
just enjoy the way something sounds.
yeah.
And then
Oh, sorry.
when we were talking
Yeah,
about
Sorry.
like the borders of like what is art, then I quite like to think like the borders of like what is music versus just
Yeah.
sound that we might consider art.
Yeah.
That's my
Oh,
purpose
this
of making.
This is such a discussion that Betty and
In the
Rat
I've had many times.
about sound and noise,
Yeah.
and I guess kind
Sound
of
versus noise.
sound versus noise, like what the
Not
difference
versus,
Versus-
just
and.
the,
Well, like, kind of, is there
the
a
borders.
difference, and can you articulate that difference, and do you need to? Does it matter? And I think for,
The John Cage idea of music versus sound. Is that?
I mean, I don't know who that is,
Yeah.
but it could be.
John
Yeah.
Cage.
You into Black Mountain?
All right, guys, let me chill.
I don't know.
John Cage.
What?
John
Yeah.
Cage.
Surrealist
Yeah.
Black
experimental
Mountain
music.
Yeah, he went to
Exactly.
Black Mountain. Did he? Oh my god.
I think he did.
I think he did.
Did he?
Google it.
Google it. Google
I think he
Um,
did.
Anyway,
I'm pretty
back,
sure
back
he
on
did.
a topic.
Yeah.
Question. Oh, what's the thing? Oh yeah, because then I felt like for you, the fact that you were so interested in that, what I don't know if this is what you'd agree with, but what sound is and what noise is, that kind of became one of the purposes of the sound work you were making last term.
Yeah.
Because you were trying to explore where that tension is and where that thing lies, and I think quite often. Not quite, I don't know, but often I've noticed in my own thing, sometimes I'm making work to explore some kind of tension,
Yeah.
some idea where there are two things and they're like there, and you're trying to work out like where's the line, like and how you cross that line, or if you I don't know, I'm just saying words, but you kind of what do you think, guys?
Yeah, because as soon as you've got like a definite answer to art, it kind of
Well, can you ever
stops.
get a definite
You can't
answer?
really,
Not
yeah.
really.
So as soon as you've like come to a conclusion, it's not really, you're not making the thing
Yeah,
anymore.
that's why
It's
I
not-
find
you're
your
no longer
product
making
Charlie
it.
looks
amazing.
shook.
I just have this big burning thing inside. Like, I don't think art is like, if it might be about things in the world and stuff, but like, it's not, it doesn't change. For me, it doesn't change anything. Like, I just think it exists as something.
It changes
What do
things
you mean
for
by
us
it doesn't
though.
change
Ooh,
anything? Can
yeah,
you
yeah,
can you
yeah.
define what
Well,
that,
we were
what
talking
do you
about it
mean?
yesterday, but I don't know if we.
It might be, people might get a bit
I know. I
triggered
feel
with this.
like if we talk about it,
No, you should.
But we- yeah,
well,
yeah,
it's
go
kind
for
But
it.
I think we need you to define that a bit more.
because we
Um,
were looking at
yeah,
But is
maybe
it
not
like
carrot.
it kind of exists. Like, it changes things within the art world. It doesn't like, it's not going to change, like, save the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, because there's so many different things going on inside it all the time. Like, someone might make a piece of work that might, to people within the art world and people who are interested in it, change their perspective, but it's never going to. I
But
don't know.
then
Maybe
you
I'm
change
But maybe
the world
that's
a little
yeah, but
bit.
maybe that's enough.
Maybe I'm overthinking.
Well, a good kind of thing that yesterday, Paul Stewart, who came in to do our guest lecture, we did the workshop with him, and he showed us a documentary, or he was commissioned, like 6 of them were commissioned to go into a block of flats that everyone was being turfed out, and they were told make an artwork around this kind of idea. So it ended up just being a documentary, and then they weren't in it. The people who made the film, they weren't in it. It was just the people who lived there, and it changed their voices, and it was the art practice that helped change the government's or the council's idea to kick everyone out. So essentially that didn't change the world, but it's changed
somebody's
about 100 odd people's lives. Because they weren't having to look. These were old people. It's not like a sense that working with vulnerable people, but it's a case of just working with people through an art practice. I know we met an artist at the weekend who worked with people, and it's just about that gaining that knowledge of
Kate McSweeney.
Kate Sweeney.
I thought it was McSweeney.
I think it was just kids.
I don't know, was she Scottish?
Kate was either Kate Sweeney or Kate McSweeney, but we thought she was really cool.
And like it's that kind of gain of artist practice as a purpose to. I think it can change.
It can.
I do as well, and
it exists within certain mediums, possibly. So documentary style is quite a specific.
That's true. That is really true.
Documentaries do change people's perceptions of things just generally. Like it's a really powerful medium.
Well, it's quite established as being able
as
to
being
change
able
people.
to do that. Yeah.
And I think other mediums can become that, but it has
possibly-
that historical context.
Yeah.
Because then you've got documentary photography as well.
And some of that changed the face of publication, face of advertising.
I think if you're going to look at it as like the entire world, you're never going to think that art changes the world, because nothing's going to change 7 billion people. Like no one thing will do that. I think it's more like, for me, I wonder more, can art impact people's lives? And it doesn't matter to me if that's one person or more than, obviously it's nicer if it's more than one, but if you're looking on that scale, then the answer is and it can depend as well. It's like you can do stuff like documentary stuff, but then you can have like applied arts as well, so community art or hospital arts programs, like arts therapy.
And their purposes are to
they have a
make
specific
difference,
purpose,
make a change,
and sometimes they do meet that purpose, and sometimes they don't. But
I definitely agree that I think it can change people, like even if it just changes a couple of people's lives. I think the problem that I maybe was trying to make was that, like, have you ever had people go that like, I just don't get it, I don't go to galleries because I just don't understand it. Like it's like the contemporary aspect of art for me pulls, like even like the like when like I was on about people facilitating abilities, like ways to be creative and people be creative and stuff, and that having a purpose in art that's really great because it gets people to be creative and be happy. When you put it into like the big, like when it's like, because we can't ignore that they're not there, the big prestigious galleries that exist all over the world, and it's like, I don't understand art, like, so that only exists with people that are interested in art.
So do you mean more art can't change the world's perception of what art is?
Yeah, I feel like it just,
because I think that's more true.
Yeah.
That like, because you're not do you know what, not everyone's interested in that debate of what contemporary art is, the same way that I'm not interested in loads of things that other people might be really curious in debating. Yeah.
It's just because I just in one, I don't know, I'm just gonna shut up now.
No, go on, Charlie.
Like,
keep delving your feelings.
I just don't like that fact that people, because I feel like everyone, like the thing is, I feel like everyone has the ability to be creative and enjoy art. I think it is within everybody, like, and people, whatever their experience within life, they get detached from that ability to feel like they can be creative or they can experience creativity. And I feel like art, the idea that art has of itself or appears to other people, perpetuates this problem that it blocks people. It's too much for me. That like the science, fair enough, that is too much. Like sometimes, like physics. Do you know what I mean? But creativity should be easy to understand. It should be enjoyable for people. Like that's where like the basic of it is to be enjoyable, to be like something that you don't necessarily have to think about. You can just do, like. Don't think and just do it.
But then that's all relative, because that depends on the purpose of what you're making. Like, to just be and to just do can be like how we could like run a workshop to try and engage people who don't do many creative things. You know, something to just do for enjoyment. But we've all around this table said earlier that we don't just make work for that purpose. There are other things that come
Yeah,
in, you know,
exactly.
and there are other like factors in our own lives that pull us in different directions and mean we have to kind of change that purpose, whether it's like a financial need or because we're in a university context. But yeah, I think that there's definitely a truth about why a lot of people don't get involved in creative things because they. But I feel like that's more to do with how art is understood or like what it's understood as. Does that make any? Do you know what I mean? As in, like, people are thinking, oh, well, I can't do that because what they understand art as is narrower than what we're trying to say it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For them, for their perception and relativity.
Well, because that can be the way it's kind of, I don't want to say marketed, it's not the right word, but that is...
But in the same way that you said that you couldn't do, I can't remember what you said, but like physics, for example. Like that's just your view, you're not in that. If you were more involved in things to do with physics, you might actually think, oh, actually, I get that. Because you're closed off from it already, you don't know, and maybe that's the same with art, people are closed off with it. But if they actually allowed themselves to get more involved with it, they would actually find out that there's areas that they would understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think contemporary art is very outward thinking, but people looking in.
Yeah.
It's very much, why aren't you painting?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I don't paint. And
Yeah.
they're like, well...
Oh, so you draw then?
But I
Oh,
think,
so you draw, yeah.
yeah. I think that links back to like what we're going to head...
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of that,
Pedal
a lot of
dance.
the responsibility for that does come from
University.
the way that school, well, not necessarily university, because not everyone goes to uni and most people don't do an art degree, but I'm thinking like the way that we're taught what art is at school, because it's like, okay, we're going to put a still life in the middle, everyone get a piece of paper and a pencil, or a 2B pencil, have a selection of different pencils, do a nice drawing, or like you do painting, and you've kind of got a very narrow... This is like a very generalised statement because I'm sure not all art teachers are like this. I'm kind of speaking from...
It's not the art teachers, it's
Name and shame
it's
them,
the
Sophie. Name and
curriculum.
shame them.
No, it's not. I don't want to name and shame, but I think
yeah.
that is, whether it's like constraints of resources or time or curriculum.
Education.
Oh, yeah, definitely,
It's the education system.
But we'll go into this tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
I think we can probably
We can
write this down and research.
Tomorrow we've got a lot to talk
we
about.
can jump in at that conversation tomorrow.
Because I was like, as my little sister gets older, as my little sister gets older, and she's got really into drawing and being, and I've like actively bought her presents that like encourage us to be creative with objects and not think about it. And I always, before I leave, like say I go back to see them, and I tell my mum when April's doing bits and bobs, I always say, make sure you never tell her that anything that she does is bad, and that she never feels forced to do anything that so basically, never feels forced, like she has to be figurative, she has to do painting, anything she could do could be creative and could be considered as being a work of art. And I always try to enforce that, because I think that's important. Like I think that's the way schools should teach it, rather than going, oh, this is what art is, or look at these artists. Like no, so you're just as much of an artist as everyone else is, as just as much of an artist and a theorist of art as everyone else that has wrote stuff about art, because art's so subjective and it is a topic of conversation. It is a topic that you talk about, and there is no right and wrong.
Yeah.
So like,
'Cause I think
teach them to value themselves as an artist and their own creativity as an artist, no matter how ridiculous it may be. It is still something. It's like them being creative and just being creative and mucking about. Like, so yeah. Anyway.
We're going to move on to another Kaggle slip. Does anybody want to have
Yeah, I think, well, judging by the pictures on the back and the front, I assume it's Kate's. It says, why do you make art? And it lets me put ideas and feelings into forms like this. And I'll show you if you're watching on YouTube. It is one of her drawings. So her purpose is to create these thoughts, feelings, ideas into shapes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
I've got a really funny one here.
I have some.
I quite like this drawing.
Here.
There's some good drawings as well.
This one says,
Ooh,
why do
that's
you
a
make
good one,
art?
Olivia.
To make some coins, bitch.
I've got one here, which we actually talked about earlier, when Ed explained what his view of university is and being an artist. What's the purpose of art schools? To work along with others for inspiration and collaboration. It's a foundation for creating, which is what we kind of hoped that it would. So
Curating or creating.
creating, which means that logically you would assume that there shouldn't be an end point, but
It's kind of these sort of doodles on the back. Just whilst
There's
I
a
remember
bit of-
Gail mentioned has commented on the YouTube saying about how Erica, who is also in the show here at Galley North, was doodling through a conference and realised that the work. I'm trying to remember this. It says something. The work. Charlie, have you got it up?
The what?
What's it say?
it says, in the exhibition she started doodling in her sketchbook and conferences, but then she realised the doodles were her takeaway from the conference. So what she, rather than
The information.
the information, she took visual.
Yeah.
So essentially, like what we've kind of like created something similar with the Kaggle yesterday, and it's this. The purpose of making here is, well, just to engage people, to
engage them with the
engage
bunker.
them with the bunker, the question at least. Would people be more
Get someone with that.
be more be more open to answer questions if they were offered the chance to. Oh, jeez,
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Guys trying to
I read-
shift it.
But
I read one, but I've lost it now. I think I
you
must have
passed
gave you
over
it.
here.
But it was why do you make art? And it said, got to get it out somehow. And I quite like that
Oh, I
one.
like, yeah. I
Because
saw
sometimes you just can't. You
What's
can't
it?
explain. You
Do
can't
think
explain why you're
feelings,
doing it.
thoughts? What's
Yeah.
it?
That's
I'm
correct.
curious. Though.
Probably the burning thing for me is like the fact I can't explain what I'm doing.
But you just
Yeah.
got to keep doing it.
Just got to keep doing it.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
the-
an impulsion, isn't
Yeah.
it? But it's
Yeah.
it's that impulsion, is
Yeah.
that the word?
I like this one.
Impulsion.
There's one here for.
Impulsion, not impulsion.
No, I said impulsion.
Oh. I just heard impulsion
Did
and I was like,
I?
it's like a portion of food. Like, I just really need to have it. Sometimes I'm like, you know what, one's not enough, I'll have another one.
But in a way, it kind of actually is.
Yeah.
Like when I was
Good
creating
one.
all these like playthings, I was like, well, I've made one now, and I'm gonna keep going. And it's
Yeah.
like a
So it's like a,
It's like
someone
a-
else said that.
Oh.
Who said that?
Me.
This one.
It was me.
But
Because
you
we had a
it's
conversation
just
about
like-
this, me and
Yeah.
you, Charlie.
I think that's probably the most poignant thing we've said all day. Like, go, Kate. Probably literally.
No pressure, Katie. You're the game.
Yeah,
okay, you're the
like,
genius at the
it's
table.
like, I think that probably sums up the anxieties that we have. It's like that we can't explain what we're doing, but
We
You've just
really
got to keep
wanna do
going.
it.
we want to do it,
We
and then
really
we're
want
frustrated the fact that people expect us to explain what we're doing, and it's like.
There's a
man,
really interesting answer here to the why do we make art, and the answer was to answer why we make it. So it's really quite
That's
Yeah.
so
secular.
that's true though.
And it's just like, yeah, why do
Secular,
we?
secular.
It's,
Secular means no religion.
It's quite secular too. Circular. It's kind of like the loop.
What do you mean? I'm confused.
Well, it's like why do we make
Yeah,
art?
no, you're-
to answer why we
You
make
make
it.
art to like interrogate what the purpose of making art is.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I think that as well. Like art, I think I sometimes I definitely think one of the things that reasons I make is because I want to know, like I want to find that like what's
You
art,
wanna-
what's not
yeah.
art, like what's art, what's the unart, and like how far can you take that?
Yeah.
And that's circular in its own way as
Secular.
well.
To feel like there's a lot that's like because I can, because it's the only thing I can do, and it's to feel good,
Yeah.
and it's
Oh, good. That's it. It feel good. I like that.
Yeah.
Someone here wrote because it gives me tingles in my tummy, which I love.
That reminds me of old Greg.
Oh no, sorry, not tingles, tinglies.
That reminds me of old the Crack Fox or old Greg. That one. It's for the fuzzy tingle times. This is as close to get the babies without getting your eyes wet.
This is quite similar to that idea of us just making it through like compulsion. Because this person's just said, because I enjoy it and it feels relaxing to get into something.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
That's nice.
We've got one from Tommy Keenan, as you can tell by the drawing. Which is coming in tomorrow. He said, why do you make art? Because it's a fun game to play.
Oh, game.
It's a game. What do you think about that? Because I think that's quite an interesting statement. Is art a game?
It's a never-ending game. If it is, then.
It is a never-ending
A
game.
never-ending game.
I think that might have just helped me understand this thing. What was it that Alan and someone did, they played a board game for.
On the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Part of Neuschloss.
Yeah, they played a board game for ages.
Oh, they've done it already?
Yeah, it was out there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw them. They were doing it like when the gallery wasn't open on Monday. I walked past and the gallery's locked. And I was like, what?
It's a game.
I don't know if they were just setting up. Maybe I'm not sure. Yeah. Well, that comes back. I feel like a lot of the things we've come to and said that are to do with purpose are all circular debates where you're like, you do this because you want to question that, and when you question that, it makes you do this, and then you just go round and round, and that's when you get in your head and you're like, become really nihilistic. Is that the right word?
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
I don't know why anything means anything, and then we were all kind of, when we were chatting yesterday at lunchtime, we were saying about how like sometimes you just need to, even though you really want to interrogate something or critique something or question it, like institutions and structures of art schools or anything, sometimes you have to like just
Ignore.
let it go
Yeah.
a bit, because otherwise you just become so stuck and so stagnant because you can't move past it.
I've definitely done that.
Yeah.
These conversations help though. If that's,
Is it?
Yeah.
Because I feel like for you, this was probably like one of the conversations that was like a big focus for you. Like, how do you feel how are you feeling compared to at the start of it? I think that's what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, definitely a lot better. Like this problem is the thing that has made me stagnant for the past. This second year has made me really stagnant. And I think it's just I've just realised. Well, I'd like to realise, but then I get back at the mat. Silence the thoughts. Yeah, because it just pushes me to further, and I convince myself more and more that I am just going to make whatever.
And try not to think too. You know, obviously we need to think and we want to do things that are critical, but when you get to that point where you're stuck, I think you have to start just doing and not thinking, and then reflect after you've done.
I think I'm going to have to definitely try to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll figure things out eventually. It'll be alright.
It will. It's
Yeah.
just. I think that was kind of another subject I thought it might be interesting for us to discuss, was that we've all experienced that anxiety about how you go about making when you don't know why you're making, and I think putting some strategies in place can be a really good way to help you. And so I think I was kind of wondering for you guys, what kind of strategies do you think are a part of your practice, and how do you keep yourself making and doing?
Well, that's why Betty and the Rat started, isn't it?
So would you say that's one of your strategies?
Yeah, because that's why we started doing it.
Yeah. Do you want to explain a bit more?
We just started, it just started off as conversations we were having. Was it just me and you at first? Yeah. And the idea was that we were going to talk through the work that we were going to make, but then that ended up kind of becoming our work.
Yeah.
The idea of not knowing is like exploring, not knowing what you're doing can be an artwork in itself, and
I
don't
think
think
exploring and not knowing what you're doing can be that way.
I think like adding strategies, models that you can like work from does like help, and it's kind of like Liv's just dancing back from the loo. She's been dancing at the table before she needed the loo.
Pause, pig dance.
It wasn't something that long.
That went south.
long enough.
Yeah, I think I think I do like sort of have strategies that I do use within my own practice.
What are your strategies?
My strategies are, I suppose, studentship, to
Yeah.
be here, to be praised.
Oh,
Which is it's a
praise
word
yourselves, guys.
coined-
Coined by Benny and the Rat,
Which is-
2017.
Shall I go to dictionary corner? Praised means.
Have we put it on Urban Dictionary yet?
That present
Oh, we
space.
should.
I
Yeah.
feel like people would definitely
Praise.
pick that up.
So
Praised is about being present in the space, but we thought it needed its own verb because it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
bit,
thing.
it's a big buzzword, isn't it?
It's
Um,
buzz.
So I think so being in those spaces is kind of my strategy, to be in the
be
area,
praised.
to be praised.
In
and
what area?
In any situation.
Any place I am,
Yeah.
as long as I'm
As
present.
long as I'm there, present.
I mean, are you
everywhere
kind of
I am.
saying that kind of seems like you're talking about being mindful in a way? If you like.
Are you talking more about art spaces
Yeah,
though?
mindfulness.
The budget
Like
of
what I have
nothing,
read.
Are you talking more about art
7.
spaces? Rather than
a
like,
space.
you know, if you're just at home and you're present.
I was thinking
No,
like,
so within my if I'm using a model or a structure to keep me motivated and keep me making art,
But what are
it's
those
it's being that mindful. It's being
mindful,
in
yeah.
the space. And we were talking about it last night. Yes, we might have had a few bits of few drinks of alcohol.
Few bits of alcohol.
Bits of alcohol. I was like, I've got to roll with this now.
consumed.
And it was that kind of, I can't not talk or think about art.
Oh yeah.
But then
Because
that's that whole thing of what we were talking about
That's
in the
sweet.
friendship
Yeah.
one.
So
how
I
we
know-
can't separate ourselves from like
Yeah.
we're
Our
going
friendships
to
and
the pub and we're
our
talking about it.
lives are very intertwined.
Yeah.
I
And
think that's
sometimes
what
that's
keeps
good,
me-
and sometimes that's stressful.
It's very stressful, but I think that's what keeps me motivated in
Definitely,
making
for
art.
me it does. If I didn't come to uni, like force myself every
Yeah.
day, sometimes I really don't want to, but I force on it. At least if I don't make something, I've still got it on my mind.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like over
Can you come into the studio, or you forced yourself to come into the studio and you've not made anything, do you feel bad that you've not made it, or do you feel good that you've come in and actually been
Present.
present?
It depends
Have you
how much
ever
I've thought that
a
day.
bit of both.
Mm.
I feel like I do feel like a bit of both.
Yeah.
It's a confusing one, but I definitely use it as a method.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
I use like models of like archival terms that you kind of go, right, I'm working in this model, I'm working along these lines, that will keep me doing it. And like if writing is a big thing, then I'll do that.
Just keep doing.
So just keep
Yeah.
writing, or
Yeah.
even if I don't like it,
Yeah.
but I have a big problem of concentration.
Even if
I
you don't
have
like
a-
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So does that mean that you
What
don't
do you mean
enjoy
by you
what?
don't like it? You
Yeah.
don't,
So
you
even
don't
if-
like the outcome, or you don't like the process of
The
writing.
outcome,
So
Okay.
when you read it back, you don't like it,
yeah.
rather
And
than.
it will become a
But you
lost
wouldn't.
document
You
in my
wouldn't.
computer.
Yeah, but
I
you
definitely
wouldn't
agree with
write it if
Yeah.
when you were writing it, you're like, actually, I don't feel like writing. Would you be like, I must finish this, or would you just leave it?
I think I'd just leave it.
Yeah.
I think one big kind of example of that is that I wrote a film noir script about a pencil case,
Oh.
and it was the pencil case because the pencil had gone missing, and it was just like, this is a fucking ridiculous idea. Like, it was so stupid.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like go, well, that was my method at the time. I was writing scripts and doing this and that because I just constantly wrote it,
Uh huh.
and I think that one was just like, you just lose it, don't you? Just kind of.
Yeah.
But it's part of the practice that goes through, and it's part of the process, part of the purpose was at that time that I was making scripts and I was using this kind of method to do that, which then evolved into other stuff.
But also, you know,
I
that's
realise I
part-
use my hands quite a lot on broadcast.
That's okay.
You can't see it, but I'm
Ed
really
is using
accentuating.
But he's
his hands
animated.
I'm
with
so animated.
great flamboyance.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's just it's that kind of thing that a lot of my criticism for my work is that I'm not risking failure enough, and then maybe the fact that if you drop things, maybe it's those things that you drop that you're scared of not doing successfully. Does that link?
Not picky.
So is it? Are you
Yeah,
talking about
that's
trial and error and experimentation?
Ideas you choose to continue developing.
Yeah, but also the ones that you stop.
So
Yeah.
are you saying, Liv, that it's not just whether you're interested in them that stops you developing them? It's sometimes when you think they're too risky?
Possibly, yeah.
But when we were,
Questions?
Questions.
when you were saying before about don't do something because you don't enjoy it, I would still have to finish the thing that I'd started.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was asking,
Yeah.
like, because you said, so Ed said he would just stop writing if in that moment.
But
he
how
was
do you
like,
know?
"Ugh."
Because I think you always go through like a little like dip in motivation. Like,
Doesn't it depend how strong that feeling is?
Yeah.
I guess, but if I still think you've just got to see something to the end usually. I don't think I would.
But
Well, I started writing a fictional autobiography. Of, like,
Sorry.
And I stopped because I got bored of my own fictional life. And it was the fact that I had
fiction,
to.
you could have made it fun.
Well, this is the thing. I had to make it fiction because my real life was boring as well. And the fact that I couldn't make it interesting, I just stopped. I was adding quotes and everything, and it was just that finished point where I was.
Should have written about
I
Jim
was-
Mendes.
But you know, like Jim Mendes, yeah. Like when you're in the moment of. We're only talking about writing now, and I know Charlie writes as well. But it's that moment that you kind of go.
Yeah.
Like you just.
I have loads of things
But then
that
at the end of the day, or you finish listening to a piece of music and you go, oh, I've lost it.
Yeah.
I can't get back into that mood. Like
Yeah.
even if you listen to the same piece of music again, I write to music. This is why. But I can't get back into it. And I've done this with essays. I've done this with stuff like that. But red wine normally helps.
Pro tip.
So
I have so much things like ideas or like little bits of writing or stuff that I've just kind of like forgotten about, and I'll find it ages later and be like, oh, what the.
I write things down,
Oh,
but if I never
wow.
think about it again,
is
then
this going back to what Katie was saying earlier about would you make artwork for no one to see?
yeah.
Yeah.
Is this work that you wanted people to see when you were making it? So this was the process that you were making, and the purpose for it was like to make it for someone to see. But then you reflect on it and you go, nah, I won't show anyone because it's crap.
What, me?
Anyone?
Oh, I know.
Oh yeah, anyone.
Yeah. I think
Is this the work that you?
Well, what
would
about
show?
you with your scripts? Why don't you use that as a go in? Like, did you start writing them thinking that they would be public in some sense?
I suppose they were like kind of was the treatments,
Yeah.
script treatment. They were
Yeah.
like you process, you kind of go on to them, but then it's that idea of that you have lost interest in it, so you stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose they are on the back burner, like they
But
kind
you
of
could pick them up.
pick them up. But
Yeah.
this film noir piece about Pencil Cave, it was weird. Like I think there were puns in it all over the place about stationery and stuff like this.
So what made you
All
do
over
that
the
though?
stationery
What
shop.
made me do it is because I was listening to film noir music, and it was just like that. You're in the moment. The
Yeah.
purpose is to create a story, and it's maybe going back to what Mark was saying earlier about narratives.
Yeah.
Like his purpose of making work is to create a story about,
Yeah.
just to offer up. But once you lose interest, like it might work like none of us are actually painters, but that kind of traditional style of if you lose interest in painting someone's face or a portrait,
Yeah.
you have to carry on because
Well,
it's
not if it's just for you, but if it was a commission, you would.
yeah.
I think you can manipulate this idea of contemporary art because some of it looks unfinished, but you can use that to your advantage. And like, whereas with something that would be classed as like technically good art, you have to finish it. Whereas with if you get bored, you kind of go, oh
You
yeah.
have to finish good art.
Yeah, but if I was bored of it and I didn't find
That's why I
it
said technically.
interesting anymore, I wouldn't then be wanting to go and show that to other people. Because if it bores me, I'm not gonna.
But sometimes the process is, like, especially painting, can be boring, but the outcome is really exciting.
One's
Personal.
man trash is another man's treasure, man.
Yeah. But
Is that a
yeah.
Macklemore?
Oh, it is.
We're all intellectuals here.
I'm gonna pop some pegs.
One man's trash is
I'm
another man's
from
treasure.
some cash.
Well, there was something that you wanted to raise, and I think we went off topic. of
Raise
what-
it. What did I want to raise?
I don't know. You said something, and I think I went off topic.
Have we got any?
I'm just looking at the list.
Should we do a little 5-minute break segment where we talk about something completely unrelated?
Oh, I've
Have we got the
list.
definition of art?
Yeah,
Have we got any more YouTube
Just because,
comments?
like, we just need to.
Or have we got any
It's already
definitions from
I was just
Dictionary
thinking
Corner?
that I'm not going to talk.
Definitions from
Goes back to
Dictionary
the conversation.
Corner.
Has anyone seen anything cool this week that they liked?
You went to
saw
see a
this
film.
really.
I saw a film. I've seen 2 films recently.
How
They were
were
really,
they?
really good.
Could
well,
you
one of them
tell
was
us a
less
bit about
good.
them?
I went to see through blah 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 blah.
Cool. Do you have subtitles?
I'm sorry, what?
I went to see 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. That's quite a mouthful.
Was it good?
That's quite far to go to see that film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tried to
Wait, Missouri.
Ha ha.
Not
ha.
you,
What pun?
your joke.
Was it a pun?
It was poor. Wait.
What was the critical one, Sophie?
It was really good. Really enjoyed that.
And
And
it's
then-
really good, yeah.
Yeah, so anyone go and see that if you haven't already.
We
and
went to a
then-
castle.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yes,
did
we
right.
did.
Right.
We
I
went
forgot we did that, guys.
over the weekend. We had a little artistic retreat, which was
Recreation 2.
held or hosted by
Jude Thomas.
Judy Thomas.
Judy Thomas. Yeah.
Is it North?
Artist
Did you go
to Northumberland?
facilitator.
Yeah.
Featherstone Castle in Northumberland, we had an amazing weekend, I think. Well, I don't know about
I think
you guys,
everyone
but I got a
did.
lot out of the weekend.
It's bringing in like different practices.
I was so praised.
And I suppose we could probably talk about it tomorrow in more depth, but it was Paul Stewart yesterday, where is it, mentioned something
Was it-
about the art school being
Bringing all the knowledge to everything together.
everything together, and I think that's what the Featherstone was. I think
Yeah.
there was a lot of knowledge in one place.
A lot of different. I think it's really nice having there were people from performance degrees, and I find that really fun.
Inspiring.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I bet
I
going
love
somewhere-
the workshop with Liz Pavey, who is a member of Dime. It's a collective, and that's just really fun. I don't know. I feel like you get a lot out of.
doing these.
I
Was
guess
that-
in that, I'm now trying to think how that directly relates back to the purpose of making, and I'm thinking the purpose of what we were doing was to.
Come together on the Sunday.
Yeah, but it was also
Reflect.
the purpose of I'm trying to think of that workshop in particular.
Oh, right.
The purpose of it, I suppose, was to make people feel more free and to be more experimental, and then.
But then
So
I was
then
wa-
if
I
you
was
don't-
watching that workshop and not taking part, which is quite interesting because
I
then
thought
what
we
was the
had
purpose for
done-
me?
What
you
was the
drawing or
purpose for
writing?
you? Why
A bit
didn't you
both.
take part?
A bit
Because that
both.
was,
It was
no,
so
that,
fun.
I think that was part of it. They stated that.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
said you
She
can come
invited
along.
people to, and then the people who kind of watched and drew or wrote shared at the
The
end
experience.
what they'd done.
So they were part of the workshop. It was just the fact that you weren't part of the physical.
Yeah,
really.
that's my curiosity. Why did you? What was that decision for you? Did you just think you'd get more out of watching?
I just thought I wouldn't enjoy
Moving.
no, it wasn't just the performative. It was a
Yeah.
bit too
Too much.
Was the
much.
saxophone there?
No.
No,
Did she not bring it?
no.
Well, you got a
Was there a
tattoo this
saxophone
week,
there?
Charlie.
Huh?
Charlie got a new tattoo this week.
Oh God. Baby
What was the
lip.
purpose of that tattoo, Charlie?
Because I like it.
Cool.
Well, enjoy
Someone's put on one of these because I like it.
Yeah, I just really like it.
I think that totally, even though it exists on its own kind of thing, it's totally inseparable of life. It's kind of like a microcosm that explains everything else that goes on.
Mm.
For me, that
Yeah.
would be something that I've definitely thought about a lot, which would be that it is like you can use the art world the way you navigate yourself in there, and how you make work, or you use your artwork as a microcosm to explain everything.
Do you think that your tattoos are partly to do with that as well, to kind of explain you in a way?
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, art explains a lot of other things in our environment or in the world. Maybe your tattoos have that same idea about yourself.
Yeah, I purposely make it clear to people when they ask me about the tattoo. I say I just got it because I liked it.
It's an aesthetic thing.
Yeah.
That's the purpose.
Yeah.
Because I think you often say about you often like to make things because they look nice, and you like for you that's a really big.
Yeah, or sound nice, or
Yeah, like
they
that
read
feeling.
well, or I've enjoyed writing
Yeah.
it. Like,
So in a way, is your purpose then to find that feeling? Is that what drives you? Like
adrenaline junkie.
find that like
Professor Junkie.
nice
Yeah.
moment. I don't know.
It's like that. Was it ASMR where you're like,
Oh, yes.
yeah. I can't-
Katie's
That's like
favourite
that
thing.
tingle. That's when
I
I
love
listened
that.
to, there was a song that I was listening to, Black Sheep, by this band. It's on Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. You know where his ex-girlfriend sings. and
See
it's
if you can find it.
Do you want me to play it?
Probably
We can't play it because it's copyright, guys.
Frig.
But we're
Oh, no,
we're into the university,
We're
so
coming
we're
into the
fine.
university. It's
Are
that-
we?
it's
No,
a-
you're not.
Isn't that
Really?
The
isn't that-
university doesn't have a copyright license.
No, but
for
we have that.
music.
We have that theoretic. It's
That's for
done to-
photocopying books in the library.
Oh, is it not for like just
No.
using
No.
material into like?
I thought
No.
Alan was like, you can use anything.
No,
Yeah.
you can't
Fair
use
use
it. We've
act.
been told that in film workshops loads of times.
Yeah.
Oh,
Damn.
damn.
I'm gonna
Damn.
say-
Research it yourselves, guys,
This is a-
if you're
Yeah.
interested.
Charlie,
A
just
point
tell
for
them the song
tomorrow,
and get
art
people to look
school.
it up.
Black
Yeah.
Sheep. I'll get it up now.
Sing it.
Yeah, sing it, Charlie. Sing it.
I'm not singing it. It's Black. It's Black Sheep by Metric.
Cool.
And yeah, like when I listen, every time I listen to it, it makes my head like guts.
Do you
And
not?
I can't
Boom.
stop.
Do you listen to
tingling.
ASMR?
Oh, so wait, are you making
No, I've
it
never
for
listened.
your experience, or are you making it for the audience's
Ooh,
experience?
that's the question.
I
Because it
quite
could be
like.
a completely different
yeah.
feeling, or
Do you
Yeah,
want
for them?
Approach.
Do you want other people to have that feeling, or are you just trying to find that for yourself?
I would like to think I'm trying to find that feeling.
For you
in-
or for
as-
them?
For them,
Yeah.
in a way that you wouldn't normally think you could find that feeling. So like that's the reason why I use like waste products and stuff, and like stuff that people don't even bat an eye to, and take videos of stuff that like looked boring but fascinating, because it's like, how can you find that feeling of going, oh, I really like the way that looks, or I really like the way that sounds, can you find that in absolutely anything? Do you know what I mean?
so. Yeah, but so the method of, if you had a sound piece like that, do you know the high pitched noise that
Yeah,
kids can hear but older people can't?
yeah,
If you would, like, just as an example, if you worked with that and put the high pitched noise in the gallery, and you said, I'm making this work because I want these sort of younger people to hear this sound and to engulf it, and I can hear it. But then you get a little bit older and you can't hear it anymore, and you still work with that, but you're not feeling that anymore. You don't get like a
But you know
that
it works.
feeling, but you know it works.
yeah.
Would you still work with that sound? Or I'm just using that as an example, but
Yeah.
it's a sound like a sound of grass. If that doesn't do anything for you anymore, that sounds weird. Would you still use that as a tool or as a?
I never really thought about using something consistently, because I like to, my work, definitely, I like to have it live in a state of flux where it could be any.
But is it about your person, what you think? Like, is it what you are physically thinking, and you go, I hope everyone else is exactly the same.
Probably. I hope everyone's the same. I hope someone else can do it, because I really like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
When I do something like, oh yeah, maybe that
But
is.
would you be disappointed if people said,
No,
yeah?
I'd quite. If people didn't, in the same sense, if people didn't like it, I'd quite like that.
If you
Yeah.
made something and you didn't feel the feeling,
Mhm.
just theoretically, and then everyone else loved it and like told you about it, would you keep doing?
So if they loved it and I.
Yeah,
Would you still use
but
it?
you couldn't.
Fully
You weren't
conscious
getting
of
anything out of it
going,
yourself.
Because your purpose is to find that feeling. So if you haven't got it in that piece of work, that's irrelevant, because your purpose isn't just for one
But if you
piece
want
of
to share
work.
that feeling,
It's like for your practice, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you keep going and keep interrogating what that means to have that. I don't know. Is
To
that
have it or to not have it.
Yeah.
To like, can that like just, even if people don't get like that feeling of like content when you look at when you look at the piece of work, you go, that's dead boring, or that's absolutely shocking. Like, fair enough. Like, but I'm acknowledging that like maybe somebody else can get
Yeah.
it from that.
Yeah, I think like in art we're often, or like in the questions that we all kind of look at in our work, they are often questions that can't actually be answered. But that, I suppose that kind of is our purpose. Like, it's not an answerable question, but you are making that work and you keep making work because you want to keep exploring that topic,
Yeah.
and you're trying to move towards an answer for yourself, even though you're at the same time conscious and aware that you
Yeah,
can't
definitely.
have a definite or a finite answer.
Yeah, and I like it's more about that when that's when it comes back to the process, because you got to think the debate is the process, and it's more about the conversation that runs alongside of it, that you're trying to answer a question that is unanswered and in my opinion it should stay unanswered, because if it got answered, then there would be no point in making work that makes no sense.
Wait, did you just say there'd be no point in making work that makes no
You
sense?
just go,
Yeah.
wait.
I was like, wait, what, Charlie? Because I swear last term you were trying to make work that made no sense.
I still know.
But there's no point in that.
No.
But that's maybe that's the point. If there's no point,
Can I get a repeat, please?
It's like if
Rewind.
because there will never not be someone else. There's a constant strive for nonsense, but never will be a point where someone goes, "Oh, that makes no sense."
but that did make sense. If you truly believe that like there should be work that doesn't have a point, then and you think there's no point in it, then you should do it.
Oh,
But it's
God,
not
Do you know what I
about-
mean?
It's not
Like-
about making a having
Yeah.
a point though. He just need, like that. I don't think they're not the same thing. Whether it has a point and whether it makes sense, they're not the same thing.
Yeah, I think I like
What
the
do you
idea.
think they?
I like the idea that the work is a paradox, possibly, because I keep coming back to this idea of paradox and art being paradoxical, like, and I keep making work that makes no sense, but then it makes sense because it's just
Or
like,
that you make it to not have a purpose, but
But
that
then-
gives it a purpose
Yeah.
because you made it.
yeah,
Or it doesn't have a narrative, but like it kind of appropriates a narrative of like, you know, like when we had that crit last term, you said that film didn't have a narrative, but it took on a narrative because it took on the narrative of like, it was a film that you installed in a project space for a crit, and we had these discussions about it.
And
Yeah.
we know you when we apply like what we know about you to that film, and
you apply situation to the.
Death of the author,
Definitely
Katie. Can
Which
you,
we shouldn't
Could
do.
you fill us in a bit?
Because as soon as you put your work out there, it shouldn't be attached to you anymore.
Yeah, if I wasn't there,
Like,
I
art-
put my
art
name
sh-
on it, it would take on a whole different form.
Yeah.
I think
so-
but I think that's quite hard when we all know within the university environment, we all know each other, we all know
I think that
in a crit who's made the work because you're there in front of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because after I had my midpoint, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I'm going to try and, the fact that it makes, and people are going, oh, why is this here? Like, I don't know why it's here. Like, obviously people are going to associate it with me because like, it's just
It's
like
like-
you've done it. But if I didn't put my name to it, the only reason that people have that perception is because they know I've made it. If I can reduce it down to the point where people don't know I've made it, it takes on a whole different thing, and then eventually it's like, it is just what it is. You're going to be like, oh, why is that there? And then it's like, I don't know where I was going with that.
It's like
So
when
its purpose isn't like it's a work by Charlie. Its
Yeah.
purpose is just like
it's like when Owen made the posters and everyone thought it was you.
Yeah,
Like, why did everyone need to put like a maker to it?
yeah,
Is it not enough to just have the work there?
we
And
always do this.
Well, it's like the ceiling tiles on the fourth
Yeah.
floor. Oh, that's your project, Ed, isn't it? No, well, not really. Like, it's everyone's artwork individually in a ceiling
yeah.
tile,
Yeah.
and it's just there facilitating. It's like kind of different. The purpose for it is for everyone else to have
Yeah.
say, but it's always having that connection to go. Well, it's yours,
yeah.
or it's yours, or
Yeah.
someone's.
Yeah,
People want ownership, don't they? We
Yeah.
don't like to not know. Because I think we all like.
This is a topic of conversation that we're picking
Yes.
up, aren't we?
Next week is it next week or the week after?
yeah.
Are you doing snoo?
It's coming up.
Yeah.
But we have this like desire to always know a bit more about the context
Mhm.
and like where it. Remember when we had that Kaggle last year, Dornella, and she was saying that she couldn't get away from people trying to interpret
Yeah,
her work
Death of the
through what
Author
they
is
knew
all
about
about-
her.
Yeah,
All about how like we have like this fantasy of like an intimate relationship with the author, but we just make that up in our heads. Like, we don't actually know anything about them, and the work could be like completely
Yeah.
not representative of them, but we just assume that we know them really well.
Yeah.
And that's like part of the draw of art. Like, what draws you into it is that we feel like some connection, but actually it's not there.
because I think the reason for the failure of for the idea that I had behind the work that I put up for midpoint was the fact that I was attached to it. if I wasn't attached to it, then it would have, for me, I think the nonsense would have, in effect, made sense, and it would have worked. And then it's like this constant. And I was thinking maybe I just embrace the idea that I don't understand myself, other people don't understand it, and force that. Sorry, I don't even know why I brought that up.
No, it's good though.
Yeah, because I think it's like, because I had there was the criticism that was like, oh, it feels like it's just been done because you've done it. Like, yeah, but there's no way for me to get away from the fact that I've done it. So think about it objectively. Think about like, if you don't know why it's there, maybe that's the reason it's there. Do you know what I mean? Is that?
Yeah.
It's so hard though, like
So it's such
in this context, to remove yourself from the work because
yeah.
It was hard in any
marked.
context.
For a lot of
Yeah, but
people-
like directly you can't.
Yeah.
for a lot of people,
Yeah.
their art is about them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
could you play on that though? Could that be kind of the purpose of what you're doing, to kind of play on that idea that we need a connection with the author or the artist, so you can create like a false narrative and a false person
Walter
who created
Benjamin.
the work.
Yeah.
And Goran Judovic, whatever.
Don't know how
Yeah,
to
it's
say it.
really hard to
The
say.
falsified, the playing on there.
Yeah.
Whose name were you saying? But you died like in
Mm.
1940s, and how
Yeah.
can you do a lecture in 1980 or but filmed in 2000 and something?
Yeah.
It's like that's completely
Mind
playing on it.
blown.
Yeah, that is a.
I really liked that Walter Benjamin thing up until I found out who it was, because then it was just kind of like, oh, look how cool he was. He impersonated someone. Like, I'm not about like, I don't want to know who it was. I like the fact that it happened. Like, but no
But
one
that's
knows.
the point. As soon as we get to an answer, then that's when we're not interested anymore.
And
Yeah.
that goes back to the fact that if you answer your work and you make sense of your work, it's like, oh man, like when you see it on like the Kaggle things, or he does this in his practice, like at that point for me it's like death, it's like death. It's like you just have to not know, like, but strive to know, and not strive to know necessarily, strive to.
As in you don't like to know artist process too much.
Yeah, because I feel like it does lead into.
There's a quote.
See, I would oppose that.
Okay.
Because I think artist process is really important for me.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think it's
I just like that way. No, because I'm really interested in like you two's different opinion on that. And so yeah, it'd be really good if you both explained a bit more.
I think in certain contexts, it's really interesting if you don't know a lot, like you know nothing about the person who's made the work. But I also think it's sometimes it can be I don't know, enjoyable, but that's not the right word. Or it can enhance anything that you're seeing if you know the artist, what they've done, and
There's a quote and it's like from my the author. He says it, you know what it's like it is. To give the text an author is to impose the quotes on the text, which I think is like so true. That's what I hate about it. So as soon as you take an author, you've give a limit to the work. Like you've eliminated all like possibility of different interpretations.
But I'm not saying that I want to use the process. I'm not saying that I really like to use it just to see the process.
I don't think it's about that issue with it saying or not necessarily not this, like it's not.
It's the explanation.
Like it's the explanation of the work that troubles me. It's like a puzzle. Like people up a Rubik's Cube, constantly trying to finish the cube. People do it out. The guy who thingy Rubik did it took him years before he managed to crack it. Like do you know what I mean?
And then as soon as you finished it, you left it.
And then people just like faster. Like that's what that comes to that. And like rather than like picking it up and trying to do it again. And that's kind of for me the enjoyment of art and what I'm trying to get from my work. The fact that
It's quite a nice analogy.
yeah, the Rubik's Cube. Yeah,
Rubik's Cube.
because I was thinking because I got Rubik's Cube at home, I did one, maybe just use it in something. And then like the idea of chess as well, because chess is such an impossible game to understand properly, because there's so many different combinations and methods in how you can get from point A to point B to finish and checkmate the king. Like there's so many different things going on, and like it's absolutely bonkers. Like everything, like you can never fully understand it. Like the games. So maybe Tommy's right. It is a game because you can never fully get to the end result. Again, well, there's certain games you can, but then like Monopoly, there's never really a true end to it because it will just continue. Like life is never really a true end to the society because everything just goes on.
Yeah.
It works like everything we've been talking about. It's all cyclical.
Yeah.
Of the cyclical
Cyclical, that's the
cyclical
word you were
nature.
looking for. Not secular. So secular.
So, do you reckon we could, this can be, this would, I like to class this as a form of research.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
effective, yeah, this is
Yeah.
Because I want to put this, maybe transcribe a bit of this. Even though I did say you, definitely not transcribe. Because you guys had the transcription.
Me and Katie love to transcribe.
But like,
Do we love it?
Well,
because I was
we
like,
do it.
because I get bored of like,
Well, that's another
reading
thing.
what other people said about work. Like, I find it interesting what we think about, because what we think about work, what the students think
Yeah.
about work, and it's like, because I was thinking, do I just put my own notebooks in my research? Or is that a bit of a piss take? I don't know.
I think if you do that and you do that purposefully, that's interesting. You have to make it obvious that that was really intentional.
Yeah. How do you do that?
I don't know.
Oh, we
But Sophie,
we've
I
got,
just know you got to do it with intention.
I
Yeah.
put my first year's practice in my research for my second year because I was actively looking back and going, well, actually, what we did there was interesting.
so did I.
And it's just
actually.
like, but I
Right.
set it out as an artist, so I had a bio from
Oh, I didn't do that.
like, so
Alright.
Just have to make it really professional.
So yeah, so it's kind of like you that
Yeah.
you self-reflection, retrospective, and the notebooks and the.
Because I think you
That's-
only strive to understand things, and you understand it because of your own self. You never like someone else will make you understand it. You're not going to do. It's like with talk about veganism. No one's going to do it unless they want to do it, and you're never going to understand.
And in that kind of sense, that your purpose of making obviously changes, and you can, if you do that,
Yeah.
and look back at your notebooks and look back. Obviously, we were just saying that I don't look at stuff, and when you transcribe, you look back.
I'm
Your purpose of
interested in the
making changes.
transcripts though.
Yeah.
Sophie just said we do it as if we don't enjoy it.
I
Because
do.
she knows that I don't really.
Well,
But I
do.
continue
But you
to do it.
for it, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, as in like the purpose.
Because
Oh,
I
yeah,
enjoy
what we talked
reading
about
over
earlier
it once
about
it's
enjoyment.
done. Like I really
but
do.
the actual process of transcribing,
is-
I enjoy, but it can become tedious. It depends how long you're doing it for.
And that's exactly the same with painting and drawing. Like
Mhm.
it's enjoyable at a point.
That's such an interesting thing, actually. That's true.
Yeah.
But then
I'll
you
play
were
with
saying
my
you
own
wouldn't
I
continue
know.
with something.
I don't really. I try not to do things I don't enjoy because I think life's too short to do that. But like
But we do spend
I-
a lot
I
of time
don't-
transcribing, like a lot.
we do. I really enjoyed it until we had that 9-hour stint, and then I lost
Oh,
my mind
yeah.
in the library. That
So
was
maybe,
our own fault,
maybe
though.
your methods and strategies should be keeping up like to date with your.
All right.
Ooh.
All right, Ed. Keep up
You know-
Kardashians.
Keeping up,
So
keep up with
savage.
It's because the conversations got too long.
Brutal.
Yeah.
44 minutes.
But it was
Total one.
also because we left like.
Was that a 44-minute one?
It
yeah, it was really long.
Ours was an hour and a half, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, we had to start not transcribing the full thing, and then like there's a whole bit at the beginning where you're just like, I'm King Julian, like doing the
Oh,
whole
yeah,
Madagascar.
you didn't-
We didn't transcribe
Transcribed
that.
it word for word, Ed. No, of course not.
Yeah, I didn't realise we went on for that long.
Went on for a long time, but yeah, no, that's interesting. That's something for me to. I think as well, it's useful to have like records of your own conversations and thoughts because you can use them for your reflections and
Yeah.
to further your ideas and to have a new understanding, because I think your own understanding of your own purpose is always evolving.
Is the only thing that matters, really.
Yeah, but it's always
Nobody else is
evolving.
gonna.
Coming up, man.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah, and also it can't be like everyone's is always going to be different.
Yeah.
No, we're never going to totally agree on what the purpose is because the purpose is different from person to person.
Mm, I agree.
Um,
I agree wholeheartedly.
Wholeheartedly. Should we summarise, guys? I feel like we're
Yeah,
coming to a
let's
bit of a
do it.
natural end here.
Well, do you want to hear the definition of purpose?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just
Oh.
for like,
Yeah.
we
That
haven't
would be
done
nice.
it, and we'll wrap up.
Ding dong.
We'll wrap
dictionary
up with the
corner.
dictionary.
Oh, please
Um,
do it.
And just
Please-
want to
please
say
do.
a quick thanks for all the comments that
Yeah, actually, the
that's
comments.
We
been
really
really
appreciate
Obviously,
your interaction.
That's been a new thing this week, and we want to do that.
And all your Kaggle slips, we really appreciate as well.
Thanks.
And in between, I mean, I know we're doing one tomorrow, but in between, like then or next week, if you have any suggestions that we could help
Definitely.
your interaction in it.
We're
And
not-
I know tomorrow we might have Gail joining us as well.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
Gail
fantastic.
Meikle
Yeah.
is a
We'll have
The
Gail
curator.
Meikle,
Curator.
curator of this exhibition, who's undertaking PhD research in pedagogies, using love as a curatorial method, and various things. I'm sure Gail can tell us a bit more about it tomorrow.
The word is love.
We've also got Juliet Fleming joining us tomorrow, who is currently on the master's course at Northumbria as well, and who was a founding member of Gold Tap Gallery at Newbridge. And then we've got Tommy Keenan joining us, who is another MFA student and who did the Graduate Studio Northumbria programme.
Has a very slick hairdo.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear that through the radio, but if you can.
And take it away,
yeah,
Ed.
take it away, please. Sing it.
Sing it.
So purpose. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so the purpose is the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists.
I don't know if
I
what
don't know if
we've
that
said
makes sense.
necessarily lines
Yeah.
up with that, because we've said that
Yeah.
it can sometimes be how it's received, its purpose.
Oh, okay. Or the second definition
Question
is
mark?
a person's sense of resolve or determination.
Possibly, yeah. I feel like that's more in line with a lot of what we've been saying.
What have we been chatting about?
I've forgotten.
I've been getting
This is why we
texts.
transcribe.
It's really interesting
This
because
is-
obviously we
yeah.
went from passion, purpose, process, personal, pursuit,
PPP.
PPP, and then we went on to pedagogies, which will take us into tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you.
But yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Really great. You guys all helped me out a lot.
Aww.
Charlie.
Charlie.
So see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. where we'll be
Doing the same.
doing the
Talk
same
about
thing. And come to the
pedagogy.
gallery. Come to the gallery, please.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.